Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. I've got a good one for you today. I'm going to be talking about marriage disrespect. I hear the word respect used often with men. It is their main form of social currency. If you respect me, you have my loyalty. You're in my inner circle. I'll take a bullet for you, right? I know a lot of men feel this way about people they care about. And then on the flip side, if you disrespect me, we're going to war, or I'm cutting you off completely. You are out of my life. It can be that extreme. Respect is often intertwined with trust. And this is the main form of currency that we needed throughout our history to survive. I either need to trust you to be there for me and have my back when shit goes down or I need help. If I think you're going to stab me in the back, I need to figure out what to do with you. And although this was a necessary part of life for thousands of years, to be hyper vigilant, suspicious, even paranoid, it's not as relevant now. And if we don't check ourselves and this way of thinking in our marriage, it can cause huge problems. I'm not saying that you should sweep things under the rug or ignore obvious signs of disrespect. As men, it helps to be more informed about what's really happening in our minds and our emotional experience, because most of this is patterns that we can fix and that we play a part in. So the 5 things I'm going to talk about today are: 1, disrespect versus feelings; number 2, respect for a person versus their behavior; number 3, ways you disrespect that you don't see; number 4, what giving first really looks like; and then 5, when to stop trying and do something different. Okay, let's jump right into it. Number 1 is disrespect versus feelings. A common complaint I hear from men I work with is that their wife doesn't respect them. And what they'll do is list out several experiences and behaviors that back their claim. Now, the minute I hear that they feel disrespected, I'm immediately curious about their definition, and their list will inform me on how they're viewing it. So if they say something like, "She's always criticizing me, telling me what I'm doing wrong," I need to figure out if she's actually attacking you or you're just overwhelmed by the feedback and the way that it's being communicated. In traditional family systems, women do more of the tracking of the home and the children. So in their minds, they have a whole list of things that they're trying to accomplish during the day, and it never ends. There's always something they could be doing. Even women that work full-time jobs are usually still doing this in the background. And I know that this setup might not resonate for all men that are listening, so just look for the parts that do. If you come home from work at 5 o'clock and your wife has been running the kids around, tracking if everyone is fed, making sure the house is clean, you're probably running into someone who's pretty stressed and anxious. That's another complaint I hear from men. My wife is so anxious. So in that first moment when you two interact, you might get a stream of consciousness coming from her. It's simply the things that need to get done and the things that weren't done. And I get it. That probably sucks. You would much rather have her slow down, ask you about your day, just be a warm, welcoming presence for you to drop into. That would be great, right? Maybe she tells you all the things she's appreciative for. Thanks for going to work today. Thanks for the ways you do help out around the house and with the kids. But instead, you get a lot of feedback that you interpret as disrespect. It's really a form of "you don't see me." And there's 2 problems with this pattern. One is, yeah, your wife could use some help realizing how sensitive these reconnection experiences can be. She could lead with more softness and understanding. And the second problem, which you have control over, is how you respond and react to whatever state she's in. So if you hold this story that your wife doesn't respect you, how are you going to respond? You're probably going to defend, retaliate, or shut down. Those are like the big 3. And then how does she respond to that? You already know. Not good. She's got to explain herself more. She shuts down. It becomes a tit for tat battle. You totally missed the point. Here's how you can change that pattern. If what you're calling disrespect is actually just feedback and requests shared in a less than skillful way, I'd suggest inquiring into the story that you have about your wife. Is this really something that is all about you? You're taking it personally? Or are you looking at someone who's struggling to manage their stress, their overwhelm, their sadness, their anger? What's more true? I'll let you in on a little secret of human psychology. We are way more concerned with ourselves than anybody else. Even though we might be trying to control others and our environment, what we're really concerned about is how we feel. That's the thing that we want to be different. So the good news with that is that you have a different move to make. When two people are taking everything that's being said personally, it becomes a war. But if you can set your ego to the side and just focus on the emotional experience that your partner is having, there's an opportunity for connection and healing. And I'll give you an example. If you meet your wife in the kitchen and you say, "How's it going?" And she's like, "Oh my God, child one is being such a brat today, and I have to bring child two to soccer practice. And did you call the contractor? This is never going to get done. We should have hired that other guy, even though he was more expensive." In your mind, you might be like, "Wow, that's a lot of information. I'm not sure what to respond to. It sounds like you're also blaming me." This is happening in your head very quickly. But instead of looking for where you think you're being attacked or offering a rebuttal, if you're just tuning into the emotional experience, here's what you can say and do. You can say, "Wow, honey, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. That's a valid point you bring up with the contractor. I can tell part of me wants to respond to that, but I also just really want to be here to support you. So how can I help right now?" Do you feel that vibe I'm putting off? It's immediately diffusing, de-escalating. It's heart-centered, grounded. I have the luxury of doing that because I'm not talking to anyone, but I also want to give you a sense of what's possible. You could say that. This doesn't take years of practice. Years of practice helps, but you could say this today. "I see how you're feeling. That's a valid point. I want to support you. What do you need right now?" And here's the thing. Even if this doesn't radically change your interactions immediately, it's still an investment in the relational account. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if your wife stopped in her tracks and was pleasantly surprised by your reaction. But even if it doesn't do that now, this will change the way you relate to each other and even how you relate to yourself. Because if you're stuck in a story, you're going to get stuck in a pattern. You can't change the pattern without changing the story. We experience life through our stories. If you're always thinking that life is out to get you and people are out to get you, you're going to be hyper focused on all the times that you fail or get missed. And you're going to be less focused on the times that you succeed or that people are really trying to show up for you. This is a very simple concept to understand, but it can be very hard to change because our minds are pattern-seeking machines operating off of confirmation bias. The second point I want to bring in is respect for a person versus their behavior. We need to look at our interactions objectively. Is someone calling out who you are as a person? Or are they calling out your behavior? If they say you're a piece of shit, a terrible human, a selfish asshole, that's attacking you as a person. That is disrespectful. No one should put up with that. You shouldn't say that to them and they shouldn't say that to you. It doesn't matter how many times they've said it to you. You shouldn't try to equal it out. This language should be pretty easy to identify. Behavior is a little bit more nuanced, and we have a tendency to not want to look at our own stuff. One flag I want to plant is that we're limited by our language, so it's easier to paint broad strokes that aren't totally accurate than it is to get into the specific details, especially when we're activated. So if your partner says something like you're selfish, a character trait, there's going to be a part of that that is true because it's true for everybody. And there's going to be a part of it that isn't true. So what couples will do sometimes is they'll lock horns around that fact, that paradox. But because I want to give you different moves to make, your best bet is to first try holding what is true about that, to self-reflect, to own. Yeah, I could see how me going out to do that golf trip with the guys left you with a mess at home. I was thinking more about myself than you, if that's true. The point isn't to prove yourself right in every interaction. It's to be relational. She tosses the ball to you. She says, "This is what I see." And then you look this over and you say, "Yeah, I can see how you're seeing it this way or why you're seeing it this way." And then you toss the ball back to her. Call it your shared reality ball. And then eventually, what you want is for both of you to toss the ball back and forth and coactively shape it until you have something that you both feel good with. Maybe not 100%, but good enough. The third point I want to bring up is the ways that you might disrespect that you don't see. One of the most common ways that men disrespect is not through their actions, but through their inactions, what we would call emotional neglect. And this can be confusing for men because they see the ways that they show up and contribute to the relationship or the family, but they can't see the more invisible stuff. How are they contributing to the vibe of safety and deepening and curiosity? If you're kind of like a robot in the house, you're not really tuned into your emotional experience, you're just doing stuff, your wife is going to feel lonely and less safe. And then if you act as if that shouldn't matter, it doesn't make any sense, that will compound those feelings. And it's a form of unintentional gaslighting. What are you talking about? That thing that you're experiencing? I don't think that's really happening. That's just you. Do you get what I'm saying with this, guys? Not a good move. If your partner brings something to you, pay attention. She might not have the words yet, but stay with it. There's something that's really true and valuable about what she's trying to communicate to you. And if she can feel like you care, you're interested, you're like, huh, is there something I'm not seeing here that I'm doing or not doing? That will allow you to be in the journey with her and not just hand it off to her to deal with. There's some other obvious ways that men disrespect. You might not like to hear these, but I think watching porn is disrespectful. Looking at other women on social media, that's disrespectful to the relationship. That's why you hide it. Really, hiding anything is disrespectful. It's not so much the activity, it's the hiding because you don't respect your partner enough to share the truth and face whatever feelings they might have and feelings you might have. You may disrespect your partner by the way that you talk about them with other people, complaining about them, putting them down. Again, like holding your story and letting that be the thing that you share with others and not who they are as a full person. And the final one I'll mention, because we're always mirroring our inner world onto the outer world, is that you don't respect yourself. This can even be more scary to look at. How do you play the nice guy? Not speak up for yourself, not hold boundaries. How do you treat your brain and body? Burning yourself out every day is disrespectful to you. If you wouldn't put your best friend through what you choose to do to yourself, you probably should make some changes. You are your own keeper, the custodian of your well-being and spirit. They always go hand in hand. Sometimes being more respectful of others helps us be more respectful of ourselves. And also being respectful of ourselves helps us have more compassion and more respect for others. I think I pretty much already covered number 4, this idea that you need to be willing to give it first. Sometimes we'll live in this subconscious framing, especially when we're not feeling very empowered, that once someone shows us that they can give us what we need, then we'll return the favor. And there's this well-known phrase, you need to earn respect to get respect, but not so great when you're in relational gridlock because this can turn into both people waiting for the other one to give. And if it doesn't happen, then you just stay stuck. I would flip that around. You need to give respect in order to get it. I'm also realizing I might have accidentally flipped that phrase from the beginning. The one I just said sounds more accurate, but whatever, you get the point. The best way to change someone's behavior, if that's in your best interest, which it is for a lot of us, is to model the thing you're wanting. And people get mixed up here. I'm thinking about my time working in the addiction field, where families would sometimes give their adult sons, quote unquote, too much respect, opportunities, second chances, money, but that wasn't really respect. What real respect would have looked like would be them respecting their own boundaries they've set for themselves and what they will allow in their homes. That part they were totally missing. So respect can look different in different situations. Sometimes it is support, sometimes it's challenge. I tend to focus on support more with married men because that's what they're missing. They don't need to bring more challenge into their relationship, at least not in the way they think they should. It's usually the other side: softness, empathy, compassion. Okay. And then the final point is when to stop trying and do something different. If you are being verbally or emotionally or physically abused, and there's hard evidence for that, you should get some help, and your partner should too. I can't assess your situation from here and tell you whether couples work or individual work would be better, but this is a no-go zone. No one should put up with this. No one should do this. I have a zero tolerance policy in my relationships and with the clients I work with. We can't do any good work until this stuff stops. So the caveat to some of these skills and frameworks I'm giving you is that if there's real abuse happening, I'd keep the focus off of them and what they need to change and just focus on you, at least for now. How do I change my behaviors if they're abusive? And or what do I do to protect myself from behaviors they have that are abusive? There's been studies on abusive relationships, and couples work can actually make things worse in abusive relationships because it's in a sense enabling the pattern. Abuse is an individual issue, just like addiction. Maybe we can do some couples work with emotional and verbal abuse if it's getting better, but this is probably the most concerning behavior that I'm tracking as a coach. Well, I'm about out of time today. If you want to join a men's group, you can find more info on my website, which will be in the comments. Come try it out. It's very affordable, user-friendly. You can reach out to me if you have questions. We can set up a time to talk even. And if you want more info on working with me as a coach, even just doing one session, first sessions are half off, and our couple sessions with Jenny and I are half off first sessions. You can find all those links on our websites. Good luck out there. I'll see you next week.